Rob, just grab a time. I'm gonna drop my calendar. I'd love to meet with you and see if I can help. So we are live, and I'm gonna drop this calendar to Rob real quick and we'll chat. And today we are gonna be talking about the new flow-based conversation AI auto follow-up. And I'm gonna give you guys a really good breakdown of like why I use one bot builder style versus the other in certain scenarios. And I'm also gonna give you guys an idea of like why I think the flow-based builder is really important and some things I'm excited about using it for. There's a couple other updates I'm waiting. So the flow style builder is always a step behind the standard builder. Now I'm going to take this back a step and get a little more basic. So high level, there's really two types of AI agents you need to communicate with clients. One is going to be a chat-based system, the other is a voice-based system. So way back in the day, I started integrating AI systems, one called WooSender, back into high level 2 years before ChatGPT came out. So WooSender's been out a long time, but it had only a very little bit of AI. This is before GPT existed. And um, then, so I would integrate it into high level. I'd use a two-way calendar sync. So when WooSender booked, it would pop up in high level and my reminders come out there. I would integrate. I was one of the first people to start doing AI voice with Air. I like paid for their $40,000. I got a big discount. It was only $40,000 for their Air AI license. A lot of people paid 100 grand. They're under a huge FTC lawsuit right now, but I was one of the first people to start integrating voice into high level. So, and that 40 grand put some fire on my ass to get me to start my agency. So I had just learned how to code right before AI voice came out. And so I had learned how to code to build an integration app to integrate high level into ChatGPT to make chatbots before they had it in high level. And when they came out with AI voice, I was like, "Oh my God, I can use my app to integrate that too." And so I was like, "Oh my God, I have to get the license." All I can say is that whole thing taught me that I do not want to do third-party integration. I'm all about less bugs and keeping and just waiting for the stuff to come out in high level. But I've got a ton of experience working with different style bots. When AI communication systems first came out, it was just single prompt, and then most of the systems evolved into there were some steps in between where it was like you couldn't see the whole flow, but you could still make it switch from one prompt to another depending on conditions like tags. And that was what Zappy Chat was like. And then you got true flow style builders, right? So Air came out with their 2.0 builder, and then um, you have chat bots that are similar with flow style builders. So the way that works is instead of it being one prompt where you've got a list of instructions, the problem is um, if somebody says something that sounds like maybe like they're towards the end of the conversation, the bot can just get confused and totally lose track of the process. So the bot gets, if you give it too much information, it'll let it get confused and not know what it's supposed to be doing in that step. So then you get flow style builders. So essentially, there's like a global prompt, which you can see at all times, and usually you keep that pretty small, but it's important that that's a feature of the system. And then you have a node. So it's like a workflow, right? So you have a very small prompt with just what it needs to know right there. And then it still has a knowledge base for questions, but like facts about the business. But it makes it much easier. The bot's only deciding which path to go down to. So it can do that pretty reliably. Um, and then it chooses a path, and then you can give one more step. So it allows you to have a more complex conversation. The other thing that's so important about that is if you have a client, there are people who, especially like, I met with a guy who does a third party chat tool yesterday. He ended up jumping on my link through the directory, and he actually helped build Alexa for Amazon. So his name was Jay. And at first I was pretty skeptical about hearing about the product, but he started talking about how important guardrails are. Um, and how like with Amazon with Alexa, there's kids that'll sit there and try to get Alexa to tell them it can do something for free for them, like give them a product. And the moment that it does, Amazon owes them a product. And it's the same with any company. If your chatbot says something, technically it can be legally binding. So it's really hard with a single prompt to have guardrails. You almost can't. It can be tricked if it's a single prompt, pretty much. So with the flow style builder, the first thing it can like detect the intent type and it can say these are the supported intent types and these are not. If it's asking for one of these things, tell them yes, or, yeah, I can help you. And if it's not, then it's no, we can't. And so it stops those kinds of tricks right in the beginning. So that's just to give you guys an idea of how you can kind of protect yourself with these flow builders. Uh, and you also need a flow style builder when you're doing a process. So, for instance, for my appointment setters that we're hiring, when I saw that High Levels chatbot could see photos and understand what a voice memo says, I was like, oh, this means that now instead of having my team fill out jot forms with putting in all their data for the day when they've been cold calling all day, all their dial time, their average, their total number of dials, talk time, average, appointment sets, holds, etc. Um, I was like, I can just have them take a screenshot of the dashboard because I would usually have to have them enter the information and upload a screenshot. The screenshot is where I can see the information to make sure I'm validating what they've told me, and I can see the time in the corner. I can see that it has their name, that the date range is set properly. There's all these things that I have to look at to confirm if it's right, and then I can know that I can rely on the data that's in the system. So someone has to QA it every submission essentially. So I was like, this is great. I can have my AI chatbot, if they don't do their submission, it can reach out and say, hey, we didn't get your submission yet. And it can get the photo and it can see and validate. I can have the prompt no to validate all those different things. And if they leave out some data or you can't see the clock in the corner, it'll tell them, hey, we don't have the time. And so I was like, this is great. Um, and I should have known, but when you're giving it those steps, because like basically the chat in High Level can also store data to a spreadsheet. So I would have it look at the data, validate it, store it to the spreadsheet. And then if the data wasn't valid, then it needs to ask and get correct, make sure it gets all the data. So what I found was I couldn't do that with the one like paragraph style prompt. You need nodes to be able to do something that complex and to be able to tell it, nope, we got to go back again because we didn't get all the data yet. Or hey, there's data missing on the spreadsheet. We still need to ask again. So you need the flow style builder for that. They haven't enabled images and voice notes on the flow style builder. The minute that happens, it's going to open up a lot more possibilities. And I'm still of the mind, like, I'm not going to another system when High Level is integrated into everything. And like when you just wait for things to be already in High Level, things just work so much smoother. I'm a little burnt around the edges from bad experiences of trying to do too much third party if you can't tell. So now let's take a look and play around. um, right here. This is the agent builder. If you guys haven't seen this, um, I'm gonna make one more quick note. I'll do a training on this soon. We have this like memory unification flow we use that like takes every transcript of every Zoom call, voice call, inbound message, etc., and like updates some fields like customer journey, buyer profile, and then like open project detail. So those are the three things that then get fed back into our prompts. But the next thing that I want to do is be able to trigger things verbally in my meetings. Like, hey, if I say I'm going to send you an email, I want that to be detected and for it to trigger an email to that person. The problem with generating whole emails is if you guys have seen, like, you can't keep rich text in a high level custom field. It gets reverted back to basic text, no formatting, no line breaks, which means to do an email, you have to template out the sections, just the subject line, the body, the different paragraphs in the body all have to be separated. Like you have to have a bullet there and then a custom field beside the bullet for to put that bullet point on there. And it's all basic text, so it doesn't look good, and it's really not very flexible in terms of the format. So this is the big breakthrough of the agent builder here. This is all inside High Level. Some of you may know that there's no other way to search the web in High Level with GPT, but you can right here. You can have all your knowledge bases. You can have routers, AI agents, and all of this can be activated. Oh, and you get rich text generation. So you can send good text. Look, you can even do video generation and image generation. So this is where we're automating our SOP creation, right? You can even do automatic ad presentation here. And the cool thing is then you can activate these agents inside of Ask AI or with a trigger. So I can go to Ask AI right here once this is done. And when my client, if I was running clients inside my agency, they could just go right here and say, hey, I want to change this about my ad. And they can activate the agent that's going to go into that SOP and update it. It can generate PDFs, I'm pretty sure. Let me look back. I'm pretty sure it can. But I'm not seeing it. Maybe not, but I think it can. You can definitely do it with a third-party API call or MCP server. But this is what you need to automate things a whole another step beyond the workflow builder. And I hope I shed some light on why it's important. But I'm going to be using this to write my emails because then it can be done in one prompt and it can be the proper format. So I'll have it add a tag if I say I'm going to send the client an email, and that'll happen in workflow. It'll trigger this and send the email and then remove the tag. Um, I just think this is so cool, and I don't think anybody knows about it, so I wanted to touch on that. But now we're going to go into the flow builder. And you can call any of the agents you build right here. You just have to say the name of the agent. So now we're going into AI agents, conversation AI. Um, from the guy I spoke with yesterday, where he was giving me he showed me the whole flow of the way he structured his conversation AI bots to make sure they um, didn't give bad answers. And we've all experienced how like AI can step in and have some bad answers. It can get confused, especially if it doesn't have the full context of your calls. So the reason I was explaining the memory unification flow that we have, it's updating all those fields every time any type of conversation ends, whether it's phone call or Zoom, which means you're completing the context of the conversation for the conversation AI. It can already see everything in the chat, but now you've added in so much more context that it messes up a lot less. And now when you add on this structure of the flow style builder on top of the memory unification flow we have, now it's actually going to be really, really high quality. We're dealing with now it's getting closer to enterprise grade for what we can deliver. I can deliver for my clients. Um, so I want to show you just the builder. You guys know what the standard one looks like. You just do new bot, you go to flow style builder. And as you see, like it can't do images and voice yet, but coming soon. And I can't wait for the day. But they did add some other features that were already in the standard builder, but they weren't in this one. And I hope by me talking about kind of the reasons why the liability that you can have by using a bot that's not doesn't have better guardrails, you guys can appreciate the value of this, especially in combination with the unified memory thing. So it looks like a workflow builder, huh? But it's got a lot of things that you don't see in workflow. The actions are different. There's some things here that you won't see in the workflow builder. But this is pretty complex. Be able to remove an associated record or add an associated record. I'm going to explain what that means. That means that somebody could be like, no, I live at this property, not at that property. Or even if it's like, well, yeah. So you can make a custom object for properties where you have lots of properties, or companies could be an example, or vehicles could be an example of associated records, or other contexts even. So like that's pretty deep. They're like making this really flexible. Transfer bot, AI message, AI splitter. The heck is that? Oh yeah, that's a decision maker. One of the main things you need for a flow style builder. So you could put one of those right here. Let's say branches. You gotta add your branches. Um, they want to. They are asking a question about my business because this keeps it from them being able to just talk uh, and ask. Like, I've had people go back and forth with my AI asking like how to do stuff in their high level, and like, dude, use your own ChatGPT. So this is how you put a guardrail on that, and they know they're talking to AI when they do that too. Here's a question about my business. They, um, yeah, you guys get what I'm saying, and then this branch would be all the things that we don't support. They are asking for an unsupported, or they're, yeah. So the first branch should be like their intent. Is their intent a supported intent? And I'd add the description there, and then I would give examples of the wrong intent and right intent there. And that's the first step of it. I'm gonna start building my own version of what the guy showed me yesterday, the guy that worked with Alexa. And of course, as always, I'll share it with all of you guys. Um, it looks like you can even build these with workflow AI, which is cool. I didn't realize you could do. But the feature that they rolled out today that we're here to talk about is not in the builder itself. It is over in bot goals, I think. Yep, right here. So I always have this stuff on, and this is the new one they added. So what this is, and I'm going to give a lot of context around my experiences with this feature. What this is designed to do is replace, like, the way that I do things now is I have a nurture that sends a static message every 3 days for the first month, right? That's my opt-in nurture. It's probably doing an email, a task for manual call, an AI call, and a text every 3 days. And I like to hand write them because the auto follow-up feature, to be honest, it seems like it doesn't quite see the whole context. Now, high level has announced that it does see the whole context now, that it can see all the messages. That does not seem to be the case when I tried it last. So like I turned it back on in my account after they made that announcement, and the auto follow-ups were still like they were so canned sounding that I had to turn them back off. I had clients get ticked off about it too. So I still like to have a nurture. I really think you may as well just pre-write those messages that are going to come out because you can do better things than hey, are you still interested? Or like, did you ever get that figured out? Like, you should be saying, you know what, here's a resource that you can use. You should be baking in like more value, more than just a human sounding response. It should be value that you're baking into those messages, something that they are going to appreciate and want. That converts, not not pestering people, in my opinion. So I don't use this, but that's what this is for. Now I do use this one. I always leave this one on. So contact requested a callback. So this is if they say, hey, reach back out to me next October. It'll do that automatically now, which is sick. So I like that, but I don't, and I leave this one on too. It's pretty much the same thing. If they say I'm busy, it'll follow back up. But I will tell you, it really doesn't seem to, when it follows back up, have the context. It's not like, hey, I was trying to help you with this. Are you ready for me to help you with this now? It's more just like, if I wish I could see it and tell you what it says, but it's always like the same thing, it seems like. Maybe they fixed it. I'm definitely going to give it a shot again. Um, but testing it on here takes a while. So I'll test it in between and we'll talk about it on one of my future trainings. But just know that y'all need to do a test of that before you run it. Make sure you're okay with the messages. And my philosophy is to do a structured outbound sequence where I think it's more valuable for you to spend your time on how to think of a good lead magnet to send them in one of the messages than it is to just have it pester people a certain number of times. Well, who's got some questions? That's the show for today. And I'm happy to dig deeper into anything I talked about or help anybody with anything they need real quick. And again, my booking link is in there in the Zoom chat if anybody wants to meet. Um, y'all are free to come off mute and say something, and you're also free to reach out to me over SMS or email, or grab a time from the Zoom meeting. If you see this later on YouTube, you can head up to the link in my bio to check out the website, book a time with me at the very bottom, or just put your email in the top for the newsletter or for invites to this event in the future. And I will see you guys soon. Thank you, everybody. Adios.